Friends, Davidf, Canine Missing Project. This is Huck Alberry, the executive producer, and she's pretty mad at Dad right now. I just woke her up and I said, hey, you gotta come in, we gotta film. She goes, no, Dad, I don't wanna come in, I wanna sleep. I said, come on, you're the executive producer, you gotta come in. She said, okay. Yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, yeah, you're a good girl. Oh, that's a good girl. Yes, you're a good pup. Oh, big yawn, yeah. Okay, we're gonna get on it. Now, if you're looking for missing persons story, that dog don't hunt today. We're gonna go back to what we did last year. And we're gonna talk about a missing person at another episode. This one has to do with Skinwalker Ranch and the new series that's going on right now. And this episode Season 7, Episode 3. Season 7, Episode 3. I know we have a lot of new subscribers since I did my last Skinwalker episode review. So I think it'll give you some background on why I'm interested in this and how I fit into the background of it. Now, under Mr. Bigelow, that owned the ranch for 20 years, prior to Brendan Fugal, who owns it now, the chief of all investigations at the ranch was a man named Dr. Colin Kelleher. Now, I met with him several times in Las Vegas. It's where he's based. And he had an interest in meeting me because he thought some of my research had to do with what was going on at the ranch. He wanted copies of my maps, which I brought, my cluster maps. And we had ongoing conversations about certain aspects of the ranch. And we talked about portals, multi-dimensions. And then when he was working at the ranch, the government came and paid Mr. Bigelow millions of dollars to study what was happening at the ranch. One of the people there was a man named Jay Stratton, part of Naval Intelligence. And I originally met Jay at Phenomicon, but I had an intro to him through George Knapp. Jay and I had extensive conversations. He also wanted copies of the cluster maps, which I gave him. Great guy, super nice, open. And there's another individual that's at the ranch right now that's in every one of these series that I have a phone number for. We've talked before at Phenomicon. He could call me, I could call him anytime I want. I'm going to leave his name out of it just to protect him. But another man that's at the ranch probably every third or fourth episode is Dave Mason. He's got some phenomenal technology. He's in my movie, American Sasquatch, when we filmed Mount Rainier. Great guy, super nice, super open. Now, the owner of the ranch, Brandon Fugal, has even talked to Dave Mason and said, hey, yeah, I'm a big supporter of Dave Paulides' work. He's doing great stuff. And in fact, he was one of the participants in the Kickstarter on the American Sasquatch movie. Now, let's kind of take a big step forward into this year. So all of the guys that are at this ranch this year are all at Phenomicon every year. I've seen them for the last 2 years. There's a special room off to the side where all the speakers can walk into. I've walked in there and they're all sitting around talking. They're all really nice people. I've met Travis Taylor several times. Nice guy, open. What's different about those guys? Super high intellect, but not a super big ego. And that's what I appreciate about being around them. They're open, and when they discuss things in an auditorium setting, they take questions all the time. I've never heard them say, oh, I can't say that. And so for what it's worth. Now, Many of the researchers at the ranch under Mr. Bigelow's realm and at the ranch under Brandon Fugal's realm have had this anomaly called hitchhikers. Hitchhikers are some type of entity that follows you away from the ranch to your home and seems to just pseudo-harass relatives, friends, wives, but not the researcher that was at the ranch. It's interesting. Sometimes it'll be an apparition on your bed. Sometimes it's something in your house or your backyard. It's been documented many, many times. Now, since I don't live with anyone now, I was reluctant to go to the ranch before because I didn't want to bring an entity home that would harass someone I was living with, but I'm not living with anybody, so I guess I could go and it wouldn't bother anyone here. Now, the episode last week, one of the tests they did is they put up 100 drones in a formation, a 10 by 10 formation in the sky. And this drone company does these kind of things for football games, baseball games, special events. And they put them in the sky and they can make them look like anything, like I don't know, like a baseball player, football player, whatever you want it to look like in the sky. Well, they put up this 10 by 10 formation, equidistance between all the drones in the sky. And after a while, 3 of those drones start acting completely different than the other 97 drones. And the drone manufacturer said they've never seen that. And they don't know how it can occur because they're all programmed the exact same way. So what decided to mess with them? Now, in past years, they put up drone formations and certain drones have actually dropped out of the sky. Now, at the time where these drones were in the sky, the researchers at Skinwalker are monitoring frequencies. And they were getting 1.6 gigahertz transmissions when those drones were up. And they couldn't quite understand. Now, why did they put the drones up? So in this area where the drones were at, there's this giant bubble over the area. You can't see it with the naked eye. Now, with certain technology, you can see it. Naked eye, you can't. It's not FLIR that you can either, I'll just say that. They'll call it the dome. With LiDAR, you can see it. And they put the LiDAR inside, and you can see almost like ribs going up from the ground up towards the top. And then when you get to the top, there's like circular rims at the very center apex of it. There's some theories that this dome also goes partially underground. When you fly GPS drones through the dome, and the drones are transmitting their location, there's hiccups in the transmissions. And sometimes where the path of the drone may be 200 feet above ground, all of a sudden it goes down underground. Well, how can it do that? It puzzles everybody. Now, I'm not very smart, but it almost appears like the entity that is there is controlling time and space. And if they control that, then they could put that GPS any place they wanted to if they had the ability to control the time and the space. Now, if there was a time and space hiccup, think about this. They've never said this on the show. I'm just telling you this on my own. But for Prometheus, the same company that's doing the show, I did a 2-hour special for them called Vanished. You could see it on Amazon. And during that show, we filmed a segment at Mesa Verde National Park. And we brought in 2 PhDs, a father and a son, that used lasers to measure time at different locations. No matter where you're at, time should move at the same pace everywhere. Well, in front of one of these cliff dwellings, they set up their machine there because that's one of the locations that everyone disappeared. Well, these guys were absolutely blown away. It's one of the rare times they ever found a hiccup in time. It's on the show. Now, my recommendation, Prometheus, if you're listening, you ought to bring those guys to the ranch, and you ought to see if there's a time disparity inside, outside the bubble, and inside and outside the blob, and on top of the mesa. I think that would be interesting, and it could answer why this GPS is going underground. I'm just an idiot. I'm just saying. If it was me, that's what I'd do. Brandon Fugal, if you're listening, that's what I'd do. Okay, let's go to Season 7, Episode 3, that just happened. The last episode, they started drilling at the top of the mesa. Just so you know, the mesa is this kind of little hill area, boulders on the side of the hill. And inside, there appears to be something that is broken apart inside and fractured into pieces. And they found this out a couple seasons ago. Everyone that I know has said, why aren't they excavating and using it like an archaeological site and just take the boulders and everything off that mesa? And I think they're not doing that because they're trying to string this out as long as they can. Otherwise, why wouldn't you do it? If you do it like an archaeological site, you're not going to damage anything. But they drilled 2 holes into the mesa between this broken up pieces in the middle. They bored 2 holes up through and up to the top of the mesa. They put technology in these holes, trying to see if they could get a better understanding of what's in the middle. They did that in this show. Now, when they were drilling these boreholes, some of the pieces that they drilled through came out, and they had an archaeologist with filters go through all this, and they picked out some very small pieces that kind of look like ceramics. And they took them to a lab in Utah, and they acted like ceramics. And Travis, the PhD on site, the physicist, said to him, they reminded him very closely of some of the tiles that are used on the space shuttle to absorb heat. Well, they wanted to use a terrestrial LiDAR scan and put it into one of these boreholes. And a man named Dr. Jan Frank was going to use GPR to scan the mesa between those 2 boreholes and see if he could get more definition of what those anomalies are inside. Now what they're doing is, up on top, they've got a 4-foot drill up there, and they're boring down into the mesa, trying to recover a large piece of what's in between these 2 smaller boreholes, like 4 inches wide each one. As they were drilling, they pulled out a big piece of sandstone. And the archaeologist went over there with a gamma reading device and said that it was slightly elevated, but not of a danger zone. Travis said that it was far outside of what should be normal sandstone. And what they're thinking is that if they get closer to what's inside that hill, the radiation might go higher. Now, Travis Taylor has had radiation attack him on that site in the past. So there's something about radiation in this site that's peculiar. So the idea is to map the pieces inside that hillside to get an exact understanding. When you see the pictures of it on the show, it kind of looks like something broke apart and splattered on that hill over time. So they started to drill again at the top in this show, and as they're going down, 1.2 gigahertz started transmitting, 1.6 gigahertz started transmitting, 33 megahertz started transmitting. They questioned the drillers and they asked them about their machines, and they said, is there anything about your machine that could be transmitting this signal? They said there's nothing about that. So what is going on that drilling tweaks something and they start transmitting? Dr. Taylor said it's like the drilling woke something up in the mesa. Dr. Frank put his GPR down into the mesa, ran it through the 4-inch sleeves, and he said it'd take him 3 days to come back, and the results didn't come back in this show. It'll be the next show. Now, the guys did something brilliant. And I don't really care what you think about this, because I know these people. They are 10 times smarter than me. And this one archaeologist that found these little chips that look ceramic contacted a company called Artemis Testing Lab in Colorado. And they said that there was a way to test the ceramics to determine the age. As an example, when they get ceramics, say at Mesa Verde National Park, and they want to know how old the ceramics were, they can give them to the lab, and the lab can test them and tell them. Through a thermoluminescence testing, it measures the amount of stored light energy. The lab stated that the chips that were found were not datable. They seemed stunned. Now, those pieces were tested at a lab in Utah, and they could absorb very high temperatures. The lab also said they did an XRF analysis, and they said it's not a plaster, but it acts like a plaster. And it's not datable. Travis said it's not a plaster, it's nothing close to a plaster, because if it was a plaster, the drill would have drilled right through it and blasted it all to heck. Because when they were drilling those 4-inch holes up the side of the mesa, they hit these things along the way, and the drill heads were destroyed. Now, they only found like 3 or 4 of these little chips, and it's still fascinating to me what these chips are. And Travis said that they need to do more tests to understand what they are, but definitely not a plaster. See, to me, they did ask this lab, well, what is it? They said they didn't know. For a lab to say they don't know, it's something really unusual. So, the next scene is that there's high winds at the ranch, 30 to 45 miles per hour. And they decided to take out this device that they had that blows smoke. This is something I thought about doing a year ago, but I'm glad they're doing it. What they were going to do is blow smoke at the bubble, that big device, and to see if the smoke deviates around the bubble. You can't see it, you can walk through it, but you have no feeling. It's like you don't even know it's there. So drones, rockets, and balloons have been deviated away from this bubble at different times at the ranch. So the first time is they started outside the bubble, blowing wind downwind towards the bubble. So you blow the smoke, the wind's going to take it right into the bubble. They had high-speed cameras set up to capture any unusual movement. So as they blow at the bubble, with the wind at their back blowing in the same direction. Unbelievably, the wind goes out about 10 feet and then comes right back in their face. Once it hits the bubble side, it came back at them. And then it also forced some of it up into the air. So what they did is they backed out of the area and into the bubble, and they wanted to see what it would do, and didn't do anything. So then they went to the other side of the bubble, to the east side, and they were inside the bubble, and they wanted to see what the smoke would do there. And it reached the bubble boundary, and the smoke went up like it was going up through the inside of the bubble. Then they went through the bubble boundary and shot it back at the bubble. The wind blew it back the way it should have. But it acted oddly as it was going up in the air. Then there's a second site. It's called the triangle. Above the triangle, 31 feet, they found this blob thing. There's something there. It's guaranteed there's something there. So what they decided to do was to get in a cherry picker. Go up 31 feet, with the wind at your back, blow the smoke at the blob. They had a camera going at 120 frames a second. And as it's blowing smoke at the blob, it goes around the blob, and then it went up over the top in almost a perfect circular arch over the top and down. Amazing. And they caught this from a camera on top of the ridge. One of the cameras that they had going, high-speed cameras, caught, best thing you can say is it's a UFO. Some people say UAP. I'm not going to be controlled by their language. It's a UFO. And they showed it coming out of camera range down near ground level and going at an angle into the wind very fast. Stopping, turning around, and going further away from the camera down towards the ground again. Travis said, there's no way it's a bird. It's way too fast. He goes, it's a UAP. Travis said that smokes, rockets, drones are all impacted by some way by that bubble. But you have two physicists there, and some of the smartest guys with technology anywhere working this scene. And nobody can figure out what's going on. Now, several years ago, when I was making Missing 411 The Hunted, Bruce Maccabee was alive. He was a physicist. He's a physicist from MUFON. He and his wife invited me to their house and we filmed there. But I had some really great conversations with Bruce before he passed away. And at the time, Bruce thought that there was some kind of generating transmitter that we may not understand that's underground there. That was way before they could figure out that 1.2, 1.6 gigahertz was coming out of the ground. This is how smart Bruce was. So in the conversations we had, I'd ask him, I'd say, well, is it some kind of ET transmitter? He goes, I don't know. He goes, there's obviously something in the ground there. Oh, he was right. He was so right. Then he passed away. Bruce, rest your soul. You're a great guy. Now, some people have said, oh, they're faking all this. Friends, let me tell you something. The staff that Prometheus has on this site is probably 6 to 10 people every day. They can't keep a secret. They wouldn't keep a secret. It would get out that it was all faked. And why would Travis Taylor and the other intellects on that site lie to just make a series? There's not enough money in it. Plus, Travis has his own company with who's his partner? Anyhow, Jay Stratton. He and Jay Stratton started a company. And no, he wouldn't lie. He's a man of too much integrity. And remember, this has been going on at that ranch for decades. It happened under Bigelow. It happened under the farmers and ranchers that were there before. So for the people who really don't know, George Knapp and Colin Kelleher wrote a book about what was happening at the ranch. And they got that information from the ranchers who lived there and all the strange things that happened. So to say all of a sudden, yeah, Prometheus is just making all this up? No, not a chance. Also, our government paid Mr. Bigelow tens of millions of dollars to put their research team on that property to research what was happening there. So do you think our government would do that if it was all phony baloney? Yeah, I don't think so. But the point of this, and I said this last year, I'm going to say it to you again. People in the UFO community make a big deal about, our government's harboring information and it needs to be totally released. I'm going to give you my thoughts about this. First of all, our government is not that smart. You think that they have all of this information? They may have crashed UFOs. Maybe they've talked to aliens. But ask me this. Why would they spend tens of millions and give it to Mr. Bigelow to put 3, 4, 5 researchers at the ranch studying what's happening there if they already had all the answers? Right? Think about that. And they didn't do that once. They re-upped. They kept researching. And it was some of those government people that went home that had those hitchhikers. Oh yeah, it's true. So, the real question in my mind is, what is the purpose of that dome on the property? Because we can penetrate it. We can go around it. We can see it with LiDAR. They don't know what's supporting it, what technology makes it exist. But it seems as though every time they mess with it, they send a rocket through it or something, UFOs are seen flying around when we do it. So what's happening there? Jonathan Dover. Jonathan Dover is a former Navajo Ranger. Spent 33 years. Been to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, graduated from a Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy for law enforcement. Brilliant guy, good friend, super smart. They brought him to the ranch. And he brought some Native American drummers. This is a couple seasons ago. And they wanted to see what effect Native Americans and their influence might have on the ranch. So the guys are drumming a Native American tune, and they have FLIR and LiDAR lit up all over the ranch. And quite a distance away, all of a sudden, this rock formation starts to turn color on FLIR. I mean, as you're watching it, it's changing color, which is impossible, technically. Unless you have a heat source. I don't understand it. They didn't understand it. So how did sound over here have an effect over here? Well, it was obviously the Native American drumming that did it. Now, Jonathan Dover, he's also in that movie, American Sasquatch, as is Dave Mason, who's a participant at the ranch. He's in American Sasquatch. Colin Kelleher, Dr. Colin Kelleher, the head of investigations under Bigelow, is in that movie as well. American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster, available on Amazon. So, there you have my attachment to the ranch. I'd give my left arm and say there's no way those guys are phoning this up or trying to make it more interesting than it is. I think that they are trying to tweak it to do something, but I can't speak for them. I don't know. I wish that they'd come out with a mission statement. Really, a mission statement of why they are there. What's the purpose of this investigation? That would help me understand what they're doing. They may be so reluctant to say that they're so lost on what to do and how to figure this out that they're trying anything. I don't know. I don't know. But they have all my support and more. I think it's fascinating. I believe that there are other locations in the U.S. that are very similar to this. And this just happens to be a convenient place owned by Mr. Frugal, Brandon. And he's given himself to the investigators to allow them the time and place to work this out. I hope it continues. I'm fascinated. I hope you are too. A lot of you said, hey Dave, when are you going to bring back the Skinwalker Ranch investigations? There you go. I'll try to do it every week. You are greatly appreciated. Now please don't say, oh, I don't understand how the investigations at the ranch are related to your missing people investigations. I've already explained this. If you watch this video, you'll understand. So, be safe, be kind, Paulides out.